October 3, 2025, 9:17 a.m. in the Caribbean Sea. 25 miles off Venezuela's coast, the radar scope lit up again. A fast contact, small signature, no AIS, moving at over 38 knots and weaving like it owns the ocean. On board the U.S. Navy destroyer, every eye shifts to the Combat Information Center. The operator calls it out. Voice clipped.
Noche se taschen.
Bogey detected. CPA under 1 nautical mile. Time to intersect. 7 minutes. This ain't a fishing boat. Fishing boats don't sprint at highway speed, zigzagging to throw off tracking. And fishing boats don't cut transponders. The bridge crew knows exactly what they're looking at.
A Venezuelan smugglingkraft.
Fiberglass hull, triple outboards, maybe 20 m long. To the untrained eye, it looks like just another go fast. To the Navy, it's a missile without a warhead. Fast enough to close distance. Reckless enough to cause a collision. First protocol. Hail the vessel. English first, then Spanish. Clear. Professional. Repeated 3 times over an open channel. Silence. The smuggler holds course. The bearing stays constant. The intercept numbers shrink. At that speed, one wrong maneuver means steel against fiberglass. And of course, steel always wins. But the Navy knows better than to trust luck. Rules of engagement kick in. Log every second. Broadcast warnings show presence. What looks like another routine drug bust is shifting into something darker. Because this wasn't just a smuggler outrunning the law. This was a confrontation. One reckless move away from international headlines and it's about to ignite. This contact isn't slowing. Its track dances across the radar, zigzags with bursts of acceleration, and then sudden lulls. Classic smuggler tactics. Make yourself unpredictable. Force a pursuing vessel to constantly recalculate. Inside the Combat Information Center, numbers roll across the screens. Bearing steady, CPA is now 6 cables. Speed holding at 38 knots. 6 cables is just over half of a nautical mile. That's no buffer. The U.S. destroyer is operating in international waters, 25 m offshore. Every move is logged. Every call is recorded. Because in these encounters, the rules aren't just guidelines. They're legal ammunition for when the incident makes headlines. Bridge to bridge goes out again, this time a little bit sharper. Unidentified Venezuelan vessel, you are operating dangerously. Acknowledge immediately. No answer. Then the Spanish version broadcast with equal force. Again, nothing but the hiss of static. The destroyer's crew understands what that means. Silence at sea isn't confusion. It's defiance. They shift to presence. The deck crew mans visible stations. The 5 inches Mark 45 gun slews slightly to starboard. Not a firing solution, but enough that if anyone's watching well, they know it's awake. A Navy RHIB rigid-hulled inflatable boat sits primed on its davit, its coxswain and boarding team strapped in and waiting to go. The smuggler responds by doing the worst thing it could, cutting across the destroyer's projected bow. At that speed, the CPA drops dangerously low. CPA, 2 cables closing, CIC calls out. 2 cables, that's only about 400 yards at sea. That's knife fight range. The captain stays calm. Maintain course, log everything. Because if the U.S. ship swerves now, it hands Caracas the story of an American destroyer dodging a Venezuelan boat. That's not happening. Instead, the destroyer escalates. Step 2, launch warning signals. A long, unmistakable blast of the ship's horn thunders over the water. Deck lights flash. Still, the smuggler refuses to break off. To the untrained eye, it looks like a cat and mouse chase. To the professionals on the bridge, this is the opening act of a collision scenario. One push away from fiberglass shattering across steel plating. The clock ticks down. CPA under 200 yards. Smuggler is daring fate. And the U.S. Navy? Well, they're just about to answer that dare with rotor blades. And after burning precision, the Venezuelan go fast slices. Across the destroyer's bow, missing by less than 150 yards. Now, to civilians, it's just another reckless move on open water. But to the Navy, that's a direct threat because at that distance, one mistake means disaster. Steel doesn't flinch. Fiberglass shatters and everyone on the bridge knows it. The captain gives the order. Launch Seahawk. Launch RHIB. Keep recording. On the aft of the flight deck, the MH-60 Seahawk roars to life. Rotor blades bite the Caribbean air, throwing spray across the stern. The crew isn't armed for strike. They don't need to be. Presence here is the weapon. As the helo lifts to 200 feet, Its FLIR pod swings towards the smuggler. Infrared sensors paint a glowing picture of hot engines, frantic crew movements, and fuel sloshing under the deck. Every time frame is stamped, uplang, then the warning flare. A bright magnesium streak cuts across the sky, arcing directly across the smuggler's path. The message is unmissable. Stop right now. Still, the Ghost pushes the throttle. Its triple outboard scream. Prop wash exploding into white foam. Speed jumps past 40 knots. They're running, but they're also tempting fate. The Seahawk escalates a green laser pulse twice across the smuggler's cockpit. Non-lethal, visible, and designed to blind sensors and force attention. It's not aggression, but it is the final warning. Meanwhile, the destroyer deploys its RHIB, the rigid hull inflatable boat. The coxswain steers hard. Intercept angle perfect. Now it's a three-dimensional trap. Destroyer looming with steel mass, helicopter circling overhead, and the RHIB knifing across the waves. The smuggler veers again. Too sharp. At these speeds, the hull digs dangerously into the swell. For a heartbeat, the boat almost flips. Shouts echo across the CIC. They're losing control, but they recover barely and swing wide, trying to break away to port. That's when the RHIB makes its move. Engine scream, bow leaping over the chop. Crew poised to block the gap. Overhead, the Seahawk sensor operator calls it. Contact accelerating. Fuel burn extreme. They won't hold this speed long. This is a chess match at 40 knots. Each maneuver tighter, each margin smaller. Inside the destroyer, the watch officer mutters what everyone's thinking. One wrong move. And this isn't interdiction. It's a collision. The smuggler doesn't slow. They weave, darting left, then right. But the Navy has them boxed in. Every course change only shrinks the gap. Then the moment hits. The smuggler RA dangerously close to the RHIB. Spray blasting over helmets. Fiberglass hull nearly clipping rubber tubes. Too close. One sailor yells. But the coxswain holds steady. Professional unflinching. The helicopter banks low. Flare still burning in the sky. The destroyer maintains course, steady, and implaceable. The message is clear. You can run all you want. We own this ocean. And for the smugglers, time, speed, and fuel are running out. October 3rd, 2025. What began as a reckless chase suddenly crosses into the line of lethal force. From the destroyer CIC, the call is logged.
Non compliant vessel.
Hostile intent presumed. ROE escalation authorized. This ain't theater anymore, my boy. This is the real thing. The Venezuelan Go Fast has ignored every hail, every warning flare, every non-lethal deterrent. Worse, it's maneuvering dangerously close to US assets. One near miss already threatened to shred an AVR or HIV. The next one might mean American casualties. And under US rules of engagement, that flips a switch. The order transmits clean. Engage to disable. The Seahawk bangs hard, camera fixed on the smuggler's stern. Every frame still archived. Then over the destroyer's deck, a thud echoes. The launch of precision fire. Not a warning, not a bluff. A real kinetic strike. The round slams into the Ghost's engines. White spray explodes. Fiberglass shatters. Smoke pours out. At 40 knots, that kind of hit is not survivable. Seconds later, the vessels. Dead in the water. For smugglers on board are killed.
No survivors visible.
The destroyer holds course. No celebration, no chest beating, just silence and recording. Because for the Navy, this isn't about drama. It's about evidence. Within hours, Reuters and the Associated Press report the strike. Washington confirms a Venezuelan smuggling vessel destroyed in international waters. A legitimate interdiction against narcotics trafficking fully within maritime law. In Washington's eyes, October 3rd wasn't an accident. It was enforcement. A show of law, order, and consequence on the open water. But in Caracas, it was a war whether declared or not. That war is just the beginning. October 3rd doesn't stand alone. To understand why 4 smugglers are dead in the Caribbean matters, you have to look at the chain of events landing here. Just weeks earlier, September 12, 2025, U.S. Navy patrol aircraft tracked a flotilla of Venezuelan ghosts south of Puerto Rico. When interdiction teams moved in, the smugglers opened fire. The response was swift. A precision strike left 11 dead. Washington classified it as a counter-narcotics operation. Caracas called it murder. The same month, Venezuelan fighter jets, Su-30 flankers, buzzed dangerously low over a U.S. destroyer in the Caribbean. Not a flyby at safe altitude. No, These were combat-loaded aircraft screaming past within 500 feet of the mast. To the Navy, that was more than harassment.
It was a test.
By late September, U.S. satellites picked up a quiet but undeniable shift. Venezuelan troop concentrations along the northern coast. Hardened bunkers, new patrol craft staging, radar units lighting up airspace in ways that they hadn't before. Caracas wasn't just reacting, they were preparing. Then October begins and intelligence circles buzz with another development. F-35 stealth fighters detected operating near Venezuelan airspace. Officially, Washington never confirms their missions, but the timing is absolutely no coincidence. The US wanted eyes and options in case the situation tipped over. On October 1st, President Trump delivers a line that electrifies the narrative. He calls the fight against narcotics cartels an armed conflict, not crime, not law enforcement.
Va.
That one phrase shifts the legal footing for every operation in the Caribbean, and it gives the Navy broader latitude than ever before. The doctrine split is clear. Washington frames the operations as a hybrid law enforcement missions with military precision, interdiction, seizure, and if needed, destruction. Caracas, on the other hand, paints every strike as an attack on its sovereignty. For them, it's not a drug war, it's national defense. And when narratives collide at sea, it's not just about who fires the first shot. It's about who convinces the world that their version is the truth.
Look closer.
And the October 3rd clash is part of an ongoing pattern. Venezuelan smuggling craft aren't random actors. They're often tied to state-backed networks. U.S. intelligence has tracked financial flows, fuel supplies, and even military-grade navigation gear showing up on these civilian boats. So, when a destroyer disables a ghost, Washington isn't just stopping drugs. It's targeting infrastructure, choking off a shadow economy that bankrolls Caracas. But there's danger in that strategy. Each vessel destroyed, each life lost hardens Venezuelans' resolve. Each time the Navy enforces maritime law, Caracas calls it war. The line between cartel and state gets blurrier. And in the Caribbean, well, blurred lines can sink ships. By the time the sun sets on October 3rd, the clash is over. What remains isn't just debris floating on the surface. It's a ripple across hemispheres. The Venezuelan smuggling craft lies destroyed.
Her crew gone.
The U.S. destroyer sails on, unshaken, continuing its patrol. No damage to report, no injuries, no hesitation for the Navy. It's just another log entry into the endless grind of maritime enforcement.
But the
political aftershocks echo louder than the engines. Caracas issues fiery statements denouncing the U.S. for imperialist aggression. State television broadcast images of wreckage painted with the narrative of innocent men gunned down in international waters. Washington pushes back just as forcefully, emphasizing time-stamped evidence, legal standing, and the unbroken chain of compliance. Every radio call unanswered. Every warning ignored. Every non-lethal measure tried. The kinetic strike wasn't reckless. It was inevitable. Yet, the shadow war isn't about who's right. It's about who can sustain the pressure. And the pressure is mounting. Venezuelan coastal defenses are now on high alert. U.S. destroyers continue patrolling the approaches. Surveillance aircraft crisscross the skies above the Caribbean like vultures circling a storm. The truth, October 3rd wasn't the end of anything. It was just another round in a contest where patience, posture and power all weigh more than steel and gunpowder. Because at sea, victory isn't always measured by the ships you sink. Sometimes it's measured by the message you send. And the message on October 3rd was crystal clear. Push too close to an American destroyer and the outcome isn't in doubt. Not for smugglers, not for Caracas, not for anyone.
So, what do you think?
Should the U.S. Navy double down on striking Venezuelan smuggling boats? Or does every clash risk dragging Washington into a wider war nobody's ready for? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this debate isn't just tactical, it's going global. And hey, thanks for sticking with us through this breakdown of real-world naval encounters. If you got something out of it, hit like and subscribe. It helps us bring more maritime stories straight to your feed. You want to go a step further?
Join the fleet.
You'll get loyalty badges, priority replies, and you'll be helping us surface even more stories from the world's oceans. Just hit join on our channel page and get right on board. And remember, out here, hesitation sinks faster than ships. I'll see you in the next one.